You got to find an intro that you'll never mumble through.
Okay. Intro that I'll never mumble through.
Just
Okay, let's try it.
feel-
Okay, let's try it. Hello, everyone. Cat Canada here with Wyatt Claypool. We're going to laugh at an NDP lady today. Why was she melting down?
Well, because she doesn't like the OneBC party in the legislature. They're only supposed to have boring opposition, apparently, and OneBC actually being interesting is like a crime against humanity in her mind. And, we propose a lot of bills, and apparently that's like terrorism or something to her.
Okay, let's just watch her right now. One sec.
Hi, I'm Christine Boyle, Minister for Housing and Municipal Affairs and the MLA for Vancouver Little Mountain. And we need to talk about what happened in the last 2 weeks in the Legislative Assembly. MLAs who were all elected with the BC Conservatives and are now OneBC and Independents have been using their time this legislative session writing and introducing the following bills: to repeal the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, to ban land acknowledgements, to cancel the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, to create a new public holiday for the Freedom Convoy, and to prohibit diversity, equity, and inclusion at post-secondary institutions. And they got the support of the BC Conservatives on almost all of these bills. Together, we need to call this out for what it is: fear-mongering, anti-Indigenous racism, erasing history, and a waste of time on Trump-style politics that target, blame, and punish, instead of focusing on the real issues that actually impact people. That's what our government is doing. This session, we've brought forward 15 bills, which will become laws that bring down the rising cost of living, improve access to healthcare, build more affordable housing everywhere in the province. And we're doing this while working together, not giving in to division that's being manufactured by other politicians. We're working for you. That's a wrap.
Anyways.
Let's take that from the back 9, and then we'll kind of go to her complaints at the start. I just love her at the end saying, instead, what we've been doing, we put forward 15 bills to lower the cost of living, make life more affordable, make it so that you can own a home, whatever she said. And it's like, haven't you guys been in for like 7 years? And you could have literally said that after every single session. I guarantee she's probably said that after every single session. This was a big success, guys, because we just passed stuff that's going to make your life better, and then your life gets worse.
They remind me of the Liberals who say, we're going to do this in record amount of time and make your life so much better. Trust us for the 101st time to do it, even though we failed to do it over the last decade. It's just ludicrous at this point. Do you even think she believes what she's saying herself?
She is one of the true believers. Like, as someone who works at the legislature with Dallas Brody and Tara Armstrong with OneBC, there are certain NDP MLAs who are NDP because NDP is the default, and that's who they wanted to run for because they wanted to be in office because they're Wikipedia page politicians, and they just like the fact that people will forever know that they were once an MLA, except nobody can recognize these people at all. And then there are the true believers like Christine Boyle there, like Brittany Anderson, like Rohini Arora, Spencer Chandra Herbert, Nikki Sharma, David Eby, the premier. These people truly believe the things that they say. They think they're making life better for everybody the more random crap that they pass in the legislature, even if it's the same random crap they passed from several sessions ago, and they're just doing it even more. And somehow this is now going to reverse all of the pain that the previous policy had, inflicted on British Columbians. This one's actually going to save us all now.
Where do you think that delusion comes from? Because EB lives in Vancouver, I believe, right? Or yeah. So he sees what it's like, Granville, Maine and Hastings, the homelessness, the drugs, it's like spreading, it's crawling. It's now even in my mom's neighborhood, which used to be a really swanky one, really clean, Cole Harbor, downtown Vancouver. Does he not see that it's actually not doing anything? It's just making things worse? Like, where does that delusion come from?
I just think these people are so postmodern that problems are just society's fault, and they're not part of society. They have rejected society. And so any problems that they see out there, well, those are just things that they'll eventually fix one day, even though they're the ones actively causing it. But even Eby the other day, like this was months ago, but he had that moment at a forum. I think it was a UBCM thing, something like that, some municipalities meetup, where he even admitted his drug policies are like terrible. But by the next week, he was just like, no, we're going to continue doing what we're doing to save more lives. And I think these people, it becomes the literal movie title, True Lies, where people absolutely believe the things they're saying. At the same time, they totally know they're lying. But David Eby has this idea that, like, how would I lie? I'm David Eby. I don't lie.
Do you see any of them giving you the stares or the dirty looks in the halls of the legislature?
I'll have to get to this later because I got into an argument with Rohini Arora at an event. She is the lady who called herself the uninvited guest in the BC legislature and called white people colonizers. So apparently it was very bad of me not to support DEI. And then she implied that Thomas Sowell is an N-word. It was very strange. I was mentioning his writing on DEI, and she says, he comes from a colonial perspective. And my thought was like, just call him a slur. Come on. And it was just like, just call him an Uncle Tom or something like that. That's what you'll want to do here.
Why is it that the biggest racists are the ones who are shouting anti-racism, diversity?
And this is what gets us back to the start of that video with this isn't Brittany Anderson, it's Christine Boyle, where she's like complaining about all of these bills that are coming forward. And like, if anything, the average person's probably going to watch that video and be like, I kind of like the sound of all that stuff. The one that gets under my skin a little bit is when she says, oh, well, they oppose diversity in universities or something like that. I'm like, nobody's opposing diversity or inclusion. They're opposing state mandated quotas that takes actual positions away from people who had the merit to earn it and gives it to people who didn't have it.
It's them that are actually opposing diversity. They're just opposing diversity of thought because they're just one giant monolith. And as soon as one of them steps out of line, they get kicked out and called all the names that they usually call us.
Well, of course, so, Thomas Sowell comes from a colonial perspective, or it's the whole Larry Elder thing that he is the black face of white supremacy. And you read that stuff, you see people talking like that, you're like, just use a slur. That's what you want to do. You're looking at the guy and you're like, he's not acting like his color should be acting right now, and they get very mad. It's like, that's so, like, oh my goodness, like, where am I, like, in Alabama in, like, the 1940s? It's ridiculous. Just how these people, like, get very mad when you're not staying in line with what you're supposed to act like.
I can't remember where I watched it or who said it, but they called it the Democrat plantation. They want to keep you there if you're a person of color. You're not allowed to have any wrongthink that counters the Democratic Party narratives and talking points.
Well, let's go through some of those bills there. The really ironic one was when she was shaming us for having proposed a vote to get rid of DRIPA, or, the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, because just yesterday, David Eby kind of mused about how we might actually have to amend DRIPA because it's causing so many problems with that new court case where, every single mine, every single stake that a mining company puts down to be able to, use an area, like, hey, you've discovered some precious mineral and you want to mine for it. Oh, all of these applications are actually void because you didn't ask the First Nations Band Council permission first, which I think we all understand would like destroy mining in BC even more than it is. Because if you found just a gold mine or something just valuable and you want to mine it, it's coal, but you want to mine a bunch of stuff and you go to the Band Council saying, hey, I'd really like to use this land that you for some reason have control over. Can I use it? And they like, no. And then they just start the mine themselves, because why wouldn't they just do that? You've already done all the legwork of finding where a great mine could take place, and now they could just take the idea and use it because it's their private property, apparently, or basically DRIPA treats everything like private property. So she complained about that one. And then she complained about getting rid of Truth and Reconciliation Day. And then what was some other ones? Like did she even bring up banning child transitioning? That was another one we did. We've had some great bills.
No, she didn't bring up that one. I think she cried about making a freedom convoy a national day.
Way better day than Truth and Reconciliation Day. Crying and Grief Day. Who would ever want to actually celebrate that? Nobody does. It's an activist holiday. And there's nothing, like, again, we've released our documentary with the OneBC Caucus making a killing. So much of it is not only completely false, but so exaggerated. I don't think anyone would ever actually feel good celebrating TRC Day, even from like a moral perspective of, I'm a good person. If they just knew how hollow the entire thing is when you actually dig down into it. Digging down is something that they really don't like to do, especially out in Kamloops. But all these bills are things that people would just be okay with. The average voter is cool with. They want DEI out of universities. They want to get rid of stupid woke holidays. They want to get rid of RIPA that's destroying the economy. There's a few other ones there that they had in, but like all this stuff is extremely popular. You know, banning foreign flags is one I don't think she mentioned, but that's something we did. Banning foreign flags and ideological flags on provincial property. You can't constantly be flying the trans flag. You can't be flying the flag of Palestine. Maybe we could make a cutout where, as South Korean delegations coming up, you can put their flag up on one pole for 24 hours and take it down. But people, for the most part, just want the cavalcade of stupid flags taken down.
I think she was also crying about land acknowledgements.
Oh yeah, that one.
Tara Armstrong, Dallas Brody, they did some great work in during question period about that stuff. I obviously think they're right about everything. Hurts children. It makes children feel guilty. Guilt that doesn't belong to them and does nothing good.
It's emotional abuse. Like, they literally tell these kids that they've done wrong. Your ancestors did something bad, and they literally will sort children into different racial categories in the class because the white kids have to feel the most bad. And so that they get labeled colonizers in the classroom. And that's where I think honestly the best rhetorical flourish that we've used at OneBC is that it's not stolen land, it's land that we built. Like, we built British Columbia, we didn't steal it. Because sometimes people get baited on the right into like, we didn't steal it, we conquered it. We didn't conquer it. There was nothing here to conquer. You just showed up and you built stuff in the middle of nowhere. That's all that happened, really. Like, there's maybe a couple 100,000 First Nations people who live in British Columbia, somewhere bigger than most of Europe. Yeah, I think that people are just going to start building wherever they want. They're not going to go find somebody to ask permission to. It's the wilderness.
And the whole conquered thing, like, weren't they conquering each other before anyone got here? Tribal warfare?
Oh yeah, like, I think actually is something I heard that was funny in the United States, where someone was like, how could, like, the Lakota would never have wanted this mountain defaced, and they're talking about like Mount Rushmore with all the presidents on it, and they're like, Lakota only moved into the area in like the 20th century after having, I think they got pushed off land because they lost a war, and they had previously been on the previous land because they had like moved two other tribes off of it, someone in like the Crow tribe. It's like, yeah, like, guys, settle down. A war is kind of like part of human nature. It's not that it's good, but it's not surprising. And I don't think any of these tribes have to apologize to one another. It's just kind of how things used to be. They just don't do it anymore. Have you ever heard of the Battle of Belly River? It's the Blackfoot Confederacy and the Cree fighting over land in around Lethbridge. It's the most like documented First Nations war in human history because it's 1870, and everyone can see this outside of Lethbridge going on. And it was like one side had like 400 people die and the other side had like 200. And they were doing this ahead of the treaty signings because they wanted more territory on their side of the treaty.
I think I also watched a video where they're talking about conquering land, right? And he's like, yeah, so, and the Apache conquered the Comanche, or vice versa, I can't remember. And the Huron conquered the Iroquois tribe. Like, it's all just been history like that. And no one's special. No one's better. No one's worse.
Isn't that technically how the first landings at Canada went? Like, French explorers and English explorers would show up, and they would immediately be like, the First Nations tribes would be like, hey, you want to join us fighting these other people? Like, that was like the first moment of friendship right there. It was just shooting some people.
By the way, how is Making a Killing going? Is it getting lots of traction? I know I shared.
I think
some
we're
clips
over around 110,000 views right now. I'd really like to see it in some months be at 500,000. It's genuinely just a really good documentary, and I am part of the OneBC Caucus team. I had nothing to do with the documentary. If I did, it would be probably connecting a couple people to be in it, but I'm not even sure if I did that. So I can look at it and just say, I'm proud of the team. It was just fantastic. I didn't even watch it until we did our premiere on the 1st of December. And it was genuinely one of those things where I was watching it being like, wow, that's answering questions even I had. Because you start to say, okay, the 215 bodies thing in the Kamloops Indian Residential School, obviously false. That's obviously something that did not happen. That's why they will not dig it up like some of the other First Nations bands have done, because it's, the other ones were more responsible, and they're saying, obviously, we should actually get to digging this stuff up. We can't just keep stringing people along. The Kamloops Indian band, the Kamloops band doesn't want to do that because it's obviously not there. But when it goes into the other things, like when people say, well, there was mass abuse at residential schools. Was there abuse at residential schools? Well, there's abuse in our schools today. And, I think everyone would agree, if we ever find somebody abusing a child, they should be strung up. But the thing is that they go through the whole claim of mass abuse, and then it basically just turns into, well, people could sign on the dotted line that something happened to them, like, your teacher hit you in the head with a hockey stick, and ergo, the government of Canada owes you $15,000. They would literally have a chart of things that you could claim happened to you, and you would get paid out for it. And you didn't have to provide evidence. You wouldn't even need any witnesses to corroborate what you said. You just had to say this happened. You didn't even have to appear in court at all. And nobody could contradict any claim that you had made, even if you had named a teacher and said, this guy abused me, he beat me up or whatever. That person was not allowed to answer you back or do anything. You're shocked that we got to 38,000 people claiming abuse. We had a 60s, 70s mass protest movement in North America, and nobody thought to say, hey, instead of saying free Tibet and save the whales, shouldn't we be saving those children that we all for some reason know are being abused down the street that we just don't say anything about? Because most of these schools were day schools where people just went home at the end of the day. It was kind of the era where if someone found out that you had been doing something to their kid, they were not going to be very happy about it, and were probably going to show up with a shotgun.
The other interesting thing I learned from watching the documentary is the names they used to come up with the 215. Some of them were in their 20s when they died of alcoholism or just random deaths having nothing to do.
Yeah, they got hit by a train. They were working at a mine and they died. They went home and they had tuberculosis and they died at home or something like that. They're just going through who went to the Kamloops school. We'll find out whoever died within a couple-year period of having even been in the vicinity. I think they said it was an 85-year-old man who died that they just added the name to, because they're just trying to at some point, they're just trying to find a name to attach to it. They just looked at anyone who went to the school, who died, and we'll just say that they might be there. And a lot of these people are adults. They do not line up with what Sarah Bollier, who was the GPR expert, the ground penetrating radar expert, said. Oh, well, we know they're children because the anomalies in the ground we're scanning for are small. I'm like, well, you wouldn't see that if it was a 20-year-old under there.
She also said, we cannot definitively say that it's remains.
For some reason, these people have a deep need for wanting dead children to be underground somewhere. That's the funny thing about it. You don't want to over celebrate it, but shouldn't we celebrate the fact that children didn't die? It's obviously a little gauche to just talk about dead children in general, well, whether they're mythical or not. But it's guys, it's why are we wanting things to be worse? Why do we want things to be more tragic? It becomes a way for, again, money extraction from the government. The worse things are, the harder it is for bureaucrats in the government who tend to more have left-wing biases already. It's harder for them to resist not signing that check for more money when, hey, you kind of committed a genocide against us. Remember that, even though, if you actually were looking for a First Nations genocide right now, just look at the drug policies of David Eby in British Columbia. Has lowered First Nation life expectancy by 6 years since they took office, because it's just gotten that bad. And this would happen to any group if you basically incentivize them to sit on isolated reserves with no jobs anywhere, because you effectively live on a socialist state where you don't own anything, where crime, the law is not enforced, crime is rampant, and there are drugs that are completely rampant, and the government even provides more drugs. Of course you would decimate a community by doing something like that. But the current activists, the band councils, don't care about all that stuff. They pretend to care. No. They care about the kids who obviously were not murdered 80 years ago, 100 years ago. We can't even get a proper timeline on this. Apparently, this was just the big dumping ground that they would just stick kids in every 2 years or something like that.
This reminds me of the fact that these reserves are just proof that socialism never works, number one. And number two, I'm shocked university students are desperate to believe this narrative, and they absolutely are unwilling to look at any evidence that might shed some positive light. Hey, there actually wasn't rampant abuse. Maybe there was instances of it, and there actually wasn't 215 murdered children. Like, wouldn't you want to know those facts? They seem to love the negative narratives.
Well, I think why a lot of these kids are willing to believe this stuff, and why at like a university like University of Victoria, we saw this mass counter protest against Francis Widdowson and Dallas Brody that was like 300 people or something like that, or even more. Who knows? I guarantee there's a lot of kids who are just looking for extra credit. Yeah, they're the true believers. Do you think all the guys taking finance at UVic who are out there, if there were any, do you think they believe in it? No. They just want to, get their job at BMO one day, and this is just an easier way of getting through their classes.
It's just so sad that that's what you have to do in order to get through universities. I can't imagine being like, women aside, they're more emotional, they're more empathetic, maybe more easily swayed
Yeah,
by these kind of
all those
narratives.
women can't make fun of
The
those women.
men who are like just willing to go along and to be like, yeah, some bad things happen. Yeah, give me my credit. Let me work at an institution that flies all the alphabet mob flags and displays the orange stickers.
And here's the things with students. I'm not telling anyone like, put your academic career on the line by starting to fight with people and attend protests and whatnot and say the school administration's woke and stupid. Just stop participating in any of it. Just stop participating. Don't give any attention to it. Let it all die on the vine and only support things that are good. Maybe join your local campus conservative club or OneBC club if that's ever a thing that's allowed to happen without gunfire breaking out. Let's participate in things that are good. You don't have to make a figure of yourself, but just stop giving any credence to the woke crap. Let your professor know that you do not support them by not supporting them.
Is OneBC going to make more documentaries?
I'm not sure. If we do, we might try and do it from the party side. So this documentary, it was by from the Caucus, and I loved that the day our documentary's coming out, you have people like Rob Shaw and other people online whining like, "Oh my goodness, they used taxpayer money to make this Caucus documentary," and it's like, well, yeah, it's a Caucus documentary. Naturally, we're going to use our budget that we have. And they're acting like we somehow stole taxpayer money. It's like, no, we just were smart. Like, if anything, everyone's just jealous of the fact that we actually did something intelligent, and they're busy billing money for limousines. Like, the funny thing is, again, the people billing money to ride around on limousines in Chicago when they go for a visit, or they're making these wood fiber soccer balls that cost $55,000 to make 3 of, including $136,000 just for the development of the wood fiber technology, which is not going to go anywhere. Do we think we're going to replace things with wood fiber soccer balls or whatever? It's not going to happen. We literally all make less at the OneBC Caucus. Like, all of our staff, we make less than every single one of us is worth. I only make $25,000 a year. We in fact don't even do a per diem anymore for people to go get food, because other caucuses, each person gets like $63 a day so they can buy themselves lunch and dinner while they're in town within reason. We don't even do that. We eat like cashews and yogurt in our office to keep the money down, in order so that we could invest the money into the documentary. If anything, we are using taxpayer money in a wiser way than most, because we're actually using the money to inform the public, not to get dinner at the end of the day.
Didn't the NDP start melting down about the fact that you were able to produce this documentary? Didn't they start trying to introduce some sort of bills to limit on how funds are used so you couldn't produce a documentary?
Yeah, they're going to try and do that, but that's never going to hold up, because what's the difference between shooting videos for your caucus and a documentary? Like, oh, you can't make anything that's above 20 minutes. Well, why not? It didn't really cost us that much to make. If I'm I still would have had a decent budget. This wasn't $400,000 to make this documentary by any means. Yeah, you had to hire an editor, some people who had some professional skills that we didn't have, but most of it was able to be shot by people on our office who already had the camera that we use for everything else. It was just very efficient. So how would they even enforce that? Like, oh, you can make videos, but they can't have a title and a marketing plan, or you can't be above a certain length, or can't have any director credit. Again, well, we could just make a video that's basically a documentary and release that too. Like, I don't get what they're attempting to do. Again, they're just jealous.
Yeah, it just doesn't follow. Like, you can make a 1.5 minute video like Christine Boyle did, crying about what OneBC is doing, but you can't make an 1.5 hour long video. Is just silly. But it's fun watching them melt down, though. I love that, because it's a sign that OneBC is gaining momentum and doing great things, and people are noticing. and they're just crying about it. It's delicious to watch, actually.
Even the conservatives now are trying to get a little bit of that OneBC energy by saying how much they oppose DRIPA now, even while when John Rusted was the conservative leader, that was verboten to say. They would kind of say it, but it was kind of only when the worst possible news comes out about like homes being potentially having their land title taken away in Richmond or Kamloops, would they say, will the premier now understand that we maybe need to get rid of DRIPA? I don't even think they actually said that. I'm giving them too much credit. But only now that Rusted is gone, they're kind of trying to sound like us. But the guy that they just made the interim leader for the BC Conservatives, Trevor Halford, is literally more liberal than John Rusted. I'm not kidding. I had an MLA from their caucus text me the day he was installed as interim leader, basically saying this guy wanted John to go for months because he thought he was too right-wing.
Okay, that's disheartening. Thank goodness that OneBC is doing what it's doing, Wyatt. And didn't you also get some blowback for working and making money for OneBC? Someone was mad that you were making $25,000 a year.
Oh, that was a couple people. So there's the first one was Brennan Day, who's an MLA up in Courtney Comox, and he only won by 43 votes, which is really funny because during the provincial election, when I was a campaign organizer down in the Fraser Valley and in like the Lower Mainland, I was making videos for free in terms of I wasn't charging the party to make videos. I was just already promoting them well before I worked for them, and I was still promoting them during the election and after the election until they, rigged their AGM in March of 2025. And I'm like, well, now you're just stealing money from old people to come to AGMs that are rigged. So screw you guys, I'm leaving. But during that election, I had like hundreds of thousands of views on videos promoting what the BC Conservatives were doing from specifically BC-based IP addresses. I'm pretty sure I was able to drag Brennan's bloated political corpse across the finish line. I probably got him more than 43 votes. And then the other guy, speaking of bloated, then I had this other guy, Mauro Francis, come out recently and call me a grifter because apparently me making $25,000 a year and saying things I believe in is the height of grifting. A man who in 2022 ran for Progress Vancouver, and which was a party that had Morgane Auger, that radical trans activist, running for them. Progress Vancouver elected no councillors, and Mauro Francis came in last place among all their council candidates. And then he spun himself into a conservative now, and then he ran in the last federal election as conservative candidate and got absolutely clobbered. Winnable riding.
Oh my goodness. That's just so much butthurt from that side coming. You love to see it. Wyatt, thanks for sitting down with me. This was fun. I just realized now this should probably have been a live stream rather than a pre-recording. So maybe in the coming days or weeks or whatever, we can get together and do one of those.
We'll throw it back and forth. You can come on my show. I'll come back on your show. We'll kind of keep doing it that way. It's fun. It's nice to be back in my studio. This is the first video I've been back in my studio in literally 3 weeks.
On the off chance that someone doesn't know where to find you, let them know. Plug yourself.
It's just the National Telegraph on YouTube, and then of course I encourage everyone just type in "Making a Killing" and the documentary will come up. It's a very, very, very good watch.
Thanks so much for your time, friend. I look forward to the next time we do it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.